Okay, in the last lecture, we had a brief introduction to the DNS server. Now, to complete unqualified domain name service names that will be used to search and submit DNS queries at the client for resolution, you must have a list of DNS suffixes that can be appended to these DNS names. For DHCP clients, this can be set by assigning the DNS domain name option and providing a single DNS suffix for the client to append and use in searches. Now, in this lecture, we are going to talk about the DNS record types. Address mapping record A. Now, host is called an A record, and what it gives is it gives you the IP address of a domain or a host. In IP version 6, it is called a quad or a 4 times A record. Now, your A records, so these records, let me take the pointer. Yeah. So these records resolve the host names to IP addresses. But what happens if you know the IP address and then you want a host name? Well, there is a record for it too. That is a pointer record which formulates back or points back to the name. Now, canonical name record, that is the CNAME record. Now, the CNAME record can be used as an alias to a host name or another host name. When a DNS client requests a record that contains a canonical name which points to another host name, the DNS resolution process is repeated with a new host name. So basically, CNAME is used to, point to another host name, and then this process continues where finally the new host name is obtained. The next is the mail exchanger record, that is the MX record. The MX record points to the mail exchanger for a particular host. Now, DNS is structured so that you can actually specify several mail exchangers for one host. So basically, the MX record is involved in sending and receiving emails through a particular server. Name server records, that is the NS records. Now, NS records specifies that a DNS zone, such as let's say google.com, is dedicated to a specific authoritative name server, and it provides the address of the name server. So what is authoritative name server? Authoritative name server is basically, let's say www.google.com, then Google is the authoritative name server, .com is the root level server. We have seen the different domains or the different .com designations in the last lecture, and I have told you that the domains, that is top level domains, or the root level domains, and .com is one of the root level domain, and therefore authoritative name server is Google. Reverse lookup pointer records allows a DNS resolver to provide an IP address and receive a host name. So what a record does basically, what this record does is basically you give the name and it will return an IP address. Okay, it will return an IP address. But in case of this reverse lookup pointer, you give an IP address, so it allows the DNS resolver to provide an IP address and receive a host name. So it's a vice versa process. The next is certificate record, that is the cert record. Now, the certificate record stores encryption certificates, for example, PKIX, that is public key infrastructure, SPK, PGP, and so on. Now, when you go to www.google.com in the browser, in the web bar, suppose this is the web bar, and here is www.com, there is a small lock here, okay, if the certificate or if this website is protected. When you click here, there is a box which tells you that certificate is stored. Now, where is this certificate stored? The certificate is actually stored in the certificate record. Okay. Next is service location, that is the SRV record. SRV record is a generalized service location record which is used for newer protocols instead of creating protocol specific records. Then is the TXT records. TXT records are used to provide authentication of mail sent and received by the same email system. It basically works on the sender receiver policy. For example, if any one of you has created a website, or they host the website, they might be knowing that when you want to verify your website, you have to add the TXT record in place, and you have to verify the TXT record after a certain point from the original server. And then if that is verified by the mail exchanger, then only you are allowed to send and receive third-party emails on your server. The next is the SOA record, that is the start of authority. Now, this record appears at the beginning of the DNS zone file, and it indicates the authoritative name server, for example Google, for the current DNS zone. It also provides the contact details for the domain administrator, domain serial number, and information on how frequently DNS information for this zone should be refreshed. Now in the next lecture, I'm going to discuss about the different types of DNS and external internal DNS. But before going ahead, we are going to use a DNS dumpster, that is dumpster practical, where you will find how to calculate or how to find out the information from a domain name server. It's a great practical, and I recommend you to not skip the practical. I will see you in the next lecture.